I found A Man on the Inside purely by happenstance. I was looking for a new show to watch, as I always do, and I'm subscribed to, honestly, like 6 to 8 different streaming services. I'm part of the problem. I pay more for that stuff than I do if I had cable, but cable sucks unless you're stuck in a hotel room, let's be honest. But anyway, that's aside from the point. I stumbled on A Man from the Inside purely by happenstance. I have insomnia. I was having trouble sleeping that night. And I saw Ted Danson and I was like, you know what? He was fantastic in A Good Place. He's a legendary actor. This looks like a fun enough show. I'll give it a go. And I was hooked from the very start. It's not just a cute little 8-episode show that you can get through in an evening if you're having sleeping problems. Otherwise, it might take you a couple days or a weekend. But it is honestly a much deeper show than I expected, and incredibly funny and insightful and heartfelt. It came as a complete surprise to me and captured me immediately. And it's not really a show that I would normally make a video about. It's not like an Arcane or a Dropout show or the biggest hit movie at the time that's going to get the most clicks. I don't know how this video is going to do, but I watched it. And then I turned around and I watched it again because it's honestly just so feel good. I can't think of a better term to describe it. And I just have to tell people about it, however many of you will listen. So the plot of A Man on the Inside is that Charles, Ted Danson's character, is a lonely older guy. His wife passed away from Alzheimer's a couple of years back, and immediately after her dying, or what we assume is immediately after her dying, he boxed up absolutely everything she owned and stopped living this really extravagant life of experiencing new things, traveling around the world, being a professor of architecture, this life that his wife gave into him, because by himself he's honestly just kind of a normal, kind of boring guy, you know, very analytical, and she was the artsy type. And when his daughter comes to visit with her family, she gives him a challenge of to find something that's interesting to him, find something to fill his time that gets him out of the house. And he becomes a PI. He sees an article in a paper that needs a guy 75 to 85 that is decent with technology, and he takes it, and he becomes a man on the inside for a private investigator trying to find out which staff member stole a valuable family heirloom necklace of one of the residents there. And through his investigation, he grows closer to everybody there and eventually realizes that he is a lonely guy. His daughter was right. He needs this friendship that he builds with the people there. And throughout the investigation, he actually becomes a pretty good PI, but more importantly, he becomes a part of the community there. He kind of makes waves with inside the elder community because he is just such a great guy, and he lost that somewhere along the way, and he's discovering it once again in this community. Now, again, I talked a bit about how this is a very deep show. There's so much humor within this. This is rife with comedy. This is a setting that I'm not surprised has never been done before, because it is a little bit out there, but it is a setting that I'm so glad was discovered for this show. As the investigation goes on, he thinks, hey, maybe it wasn't a staff member, maybe it was one of the residents here. So then he starts to go closer to the residents when he is investigating them. He grows closer with the staff as well, trying to find more information on the residents, and just becomes a better version of himself. And in the very end, he discovers that it is one of the patients that has Alzheimer's that was accidentally stealing all of the stuff, because she didn't think she was stealing. She thought it was something that she herself had already owned. And after he has been discovered by Dee Dee, he goes back and proves that it was her and kind of gets outed as a fraud, a private investigator that has been a mole, a man on the inside of this elder community. And at first, everybody is angry at him, but then they realize that he was being his real self. He was a real person this entire time. And they allow him to be their friend once again, and that is the end. I wanted to take some time to touch on some of the side characters that are not Ted Danson in this, because every single character in this is like fully, completely fleshed out. They feel like a real person within the show, within this world. You believe them, and it makes the emotional stuff that happens, the deeper aspects of this show that kind of take you by surprise when you click into this and aren't expecting it, really hit home all the more. So obviously there's Ted Danson. This whole video I've talked a lot about him. He's absolutely fantastic. Mary Elizabeth Ellis plays Emily, his daughter, and the relationship between them is a huge overarching kind of background story within this show where they don't really know how to communicate with each other. His communication with her before this little project of being a PI is just him sending her newspaper clippings of things that he finds interesting about like architecture or whatever. The overarching story of them building their relationship from the ground up without the mother again is beautiful, and it makes me kind of teary a couple times. Then you have Julie, the PI. She's good. I wouldn't say that she's like absolutely fantastic. She's very much needed to like drive the story forward. There's not a whole lot deep about her, but the acting is really phenomenal. A standout for me, probably the biggest standout of all, is Stephanie Beatrice, who plays Dee Dee, who is the manager of the old folks community that he goes into. The only other thing that I know Stephanie Beatrice from is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And in that, she plays Rosa Diaz. And everybody that's a fan of Brooklyn Nine-Nine know that Stephanie Beatrice puts on a voice and a persona for that. And she's actually like the exact opposite. She has a much higher pitched voice. She's very bubbly. And in this, she plays what I assume is somebody that's much more like her actual self, because she has this cute little fluffy hair and she talks in her normal voice, and she's just a deeply caring person about everybody within the community. And she actually quits her job at the very end of the show because she feels like she failed the community and failed the residents by allowing an imposter, Charles, to be within there gathering information. And it takes Charles and Julie convincing her that she is needed there and nobody could possibly take care of them better and care more about them than her. She's a lovely character, complete standout. I love her. Some of the residents that I like Elliot. He's like this gruff old guy that has a little bit of an arc of being just an asshole to really caring about Virginia, who's another character that I like. Florence down here, she only had a few episodes. She unfortunately passed away in the show. And that's a huge heartfelt moment where Charles kind of realizes how much he actually is deeply caring about these people. She's very multi-layered. She had lost her husband in the past. She's a huge fan of the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry. Everybody in this has so many roles to play, even in their tiny little role that they might have within the show. They're very fleshed out. She gambles. She lost her husband. She's a fan of the Golden State Warriors. She's very well off, but kind of a penny pincher. Those are aspects that didn't necessarily need to be put in here, but just make the story that much better. Now, as I said in the very beginning of this video, this show is actually a lot deeper than I had expected going into it. The main character, Charles, played by Ted Danson, is a older, retired, lonely guy.
For the majority of seniors, the biggest threat to their well-being isn't an accident or health, it's loneliness. Our residents are vibrant, well taken care of, and they're together.
And when he goes into this, he's looking for a challenge, just a hobby, something different. So, he goes into PI work, as we all do when we're having trouble with loneliness and needing to find a hobby. Some of us make a YouTube channel. Others go into PI work. It's really the only two choices. But anyway, he goes into this, and when he enters the retirement community, he finds that camaraderie and that friendship he is looking for. He makes some absolutely amazing friends. He bonds with people in a way that he didn't think he was going to. And in the effort of solving this mystery of the necklace and eventually other objects that go missing, he gets closer to these people, trying to fish out information from them, but in the process joins them on projects, goes on outings, and makes friends and doesn't really miss his old life. He has this revitalization that he'd been missing ever since his wife passed away. Feeds into another thing that I want to talk about, which is his struggle of going into what is called the neighborhood, which is those with Alzheimer's are in, because his wife died of Alzheimer's. And his wife was his soulmate, his person, and there's a woman in there that is struggling with Alzheimer's, and everybody distances themselves from her within the elder community because they think it's like contagious. They think it's bad juju. And he makes an effort to become close to her and help her because it is a struggle of his throughout this of losing his wife to Alzheimer's. And we later find out that he was going to put his wife into a Alzheimer's care ward, even though he had promised her that she would be able to stay home. And that is like a deep struggle that he holds in within himself. But we don't find out about that till the end. But he just didn't feel as if he could take care of her properly anymore. Like, honestly, this is nothing that I expected from this show. You have patients that are dealing with cancer struggles, dealing with trying to find love at the end of their life, and not connecting with their kids. And the biggest overarching plot of this is the loneliness that these older people feel. It's stuff that I didn't expect a show like this to tackle, this fun, lighthearted show that I went into for a quick laugh when I couldn't sleep at night. And yeah, I did get a quick laugh. I got a lot of laughs. It's incredibly hilarious. Ted Danson is really good.
I'm part of a peach club.
Why are you always in a club?
I don't know, but stop talking. You're confusing
Stop talking to me. You're talking to no one.
Sorry, I just love peaches, man. As a matter of fact, I'll take all your peaches.
And it's not just Ted Danson, it's all the other actors that I talked about. But every single character in this feels like a real person. It is such a well-written show. And because everyone feels like a real person, the moments that are built to, that are more emotional, got me all choked up. And when I went into this show, I didn't think it was the type of show that was going to make me emotional and choked up. It's really surprising. It's one of the main reasons I wanted to talk about this, because it's fucking hilarious, but made me almost cry multiple times. Other people have to experience this. This was honestly such a surprising show. It really took me from the very first moment that I started to watch it. Like, I really planned on watching like 1 or 2 episodes and then trying to go to sleep again. But it just hooked me and I had to watch all of it. And they kind of hinted at like a second season at the very end of this. Like, throughout the entire show, Charles has been like really into the spy stuff, right? Like, he's been really kind of digging into the movie side of being a spy. And it's great. It's absolutely hilarious. It gives so much comedy to it. And Ted Danson is just a brilliant actor. He was perfect for this role. I can't think of anybody else that could have done it the way that he did. But at the very end of the show, they kind of hinted at the ability for a second season. Julie, who he'd been working with the entire time, realizes that she needs another man on the inside and he would be perfect. And she calls him up and he's like, "Say no more." And then he hangs up and then he calls her back and he's like, "Actually, do say more." And I don't know how they're going to do a second season. This seems like the perfect, like, little encapsulated story. But if they find like a way to do it that works with the show, because the way this wrapped up with him building a relationship with his daughter again and finding out a way to have that relationship, that father-daughter relationship, without that glue that held them together, the mother, his wife, and he re-put up all the stuff in his house. So again, I'm kind of rambling here. I don't know how a second season will happen. This seems like a really, really good 1-season arc that wrapped everything up in a nice little bow. But if they do it properly, I certainly won't complain. I will be so happy to have more of this feeling that the show gives me. But thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Check out my other videos.